And they already signed. So after we're done, I'm gonna do like last time. I'm gonna send you the list.
Okay.
So okay. So we're ready whenever you are.
Okay, David, do you want to start? I know we had a few topics to go over. David's going to talk to some of those topics, and then I will end it with a short video and some other just little information about it in terms of this PowerPoint. David, if you want, you can take it away.
Yeah, they have a copy of the agenda.
Hello. Okay. One of the things we talked about before was this culture of safety. And I wanted to kind of repeat that a little bit, that safety is not a thing that you put on like a vest or a pair of pants or a pair of shoes when you go to work, but it is something that's a part of you. It becomes a part of you. And I wanted to talk about, where does that begin? That begins at home. It begins when you are in your comfortable environment around you. It begins when you realize that your life and the life of your family members and other people's family members can be at risk because of your safety attitude. A professional driver is supposed to be able to correct or counter errors that everybody else makes. Not just you be driving safe, but you have to be aware of and be prepared to correct for those drivers who don't pay attention, those drivers who don't obey the law, those drivers who may be for some reason incapacitated. That is called situational awareness. That is being aware of everything that's going on around you. You can compare this to like you're a spy, and you walk into a room, and you've got to figure out who the person is you need to talk to, who also is a spy, who is the person who's your target. You have to evaluate the situation kind of all the way around the room while you're walking. Well, that's the same thing when you're driving. When you're driving, you have to be aware. You kind of consciously know that this guy is going to screw up, and I need to be aware of that. Okay, so that's part of the reason why distractions such as talking on the phone, reaching down for food, changing the radio stations, and all of that are important, because those are distractions. They keep your mind away from what it is you need to be, and that is situationally aware, always aware of what's going on around you. I drive sometimes when I was on the road. I would imagine, what if the truck that's across the highway from me comes across the road, because for whatever reason, comes across the road, comes across the media, and is headed at me. What am I going to do? So trucks and cars that are driving on the opposite, I'm always thinking, what am I going to do if one of those people comes across and I'm in a head-on situation? Am I going to go left? Am I going to go right? What am I going to do? Do I have room to move in this place or that place? That's the thing that's required. And most drivers they're not conscious drivers. And that's the problem. You have to be, as a professional driver, you have to be a conscious driver. What you're doing and how you're doing it, the speed you're going, whether you have room in your lane to move, whether somebody has pinned you in, and whether you need to back off, or whether you need to speed up, or whether you need to change lanes in order to avoid a possible situation. That's what needs to be done. Think about that. I'm going to give you a second to think about that. That's how you avoid accidents. That's how you can call it defensive driving, but it's not really defensive. It's just being aware that everybody else is going to screw up and that you're not going to screw up, and you're going to prevent them from having a serious issue because they screwed up. You're going to save them from themselves. Safety is when you're at home cooking. I'm sure you don't worry about the flame in the stove because you're always thinking, I'm not going to get burned. When you go into the oven, you're thinking, oh, this is going to be hot, so I'm going to use hot pad. And where am I going to put this down? That's the kind of thing that is common in most people's lives, and that needs to be transferred to your driving. Okay. Aaron, is there another subject there? Aaron?
No, that was good. I'll cover the other two topics with aggressive driving. You guys have any questions or comments on regards to what David mentioned?
We're good.
Go ahead.
We're good.
No, I'm thinking what. I want to know which one I want to answer.
Hold on, because they have a question, but they are waiting. They want to know. They're processing how they're going to ask the question.
Okay.
What's the best way to something like you cannot like preventable avoid? Like what can you do? What can you point and find out? Hey, here we go.
I think, yeah. I didn't get the question clear. Could you repeat it, please?
Like, what's the best way to deal with a situation that you cannot avoid?
Do you have like an example?
If you can't avoid it, you can't avoid it. But the thing is, you need to be just aware that it is
Right.
always a possibility. Yeah. There are people who are going to just, without thinking, they're just going to run into you. They're going to be, for whatever they're doing wrong, if they're on your side and they hit you, you can't avoid those. But the overall tenure of what you're doing is that you need to be, when you see someone that there are cars like, for instance, there are cars that will ride right alongside of you. Okay.
Right.
And they leave you no out. So you need to back off so that they're either in front of you or behind you. And if there's a gap between the two of them, you should ride, let's say it's to your right. You should ride in the gap between those two cars that are, let's say they're one following the other. You should be riding between the gap.
Okay.
Not if someone's driving right alongside you and they stay there, slow down or speed up. Go to the next gap up ahead or to the gap behind.
Okay.
Is that clear? I don't know.
Yeah.
You want me to repeat?
No, I got it.
Yeah. You don't let someone stay alongside of you because you have no out then. You have no way to go. Nowhere to go. And so you put yourself in a position so that you always have, well, not always, but most of the time, you have somewhere to go. If something happens, you can change lanes or move over without running somebody else off the road.
Okay. Yeah, that was my question then.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
No more questions.
Okay.
I'll still be here, so if something pops up, just ask me.
Sounds good. Yeah, that was a good point and good question. Thanks for asking. That was a good. I'm sure there's situations like that where they deal with every single day. I think next meeting I'll show a few videos that I have of actual driving situations where we can probably discuss as a group, and then even David can get some his expertise, because he sits on, you know, some of the national councils that look at these accidents and determine preventability. You know, so it'd be good to kind of look at these scenarios and look at why it was preventable and how it could have been avoided. In situations where even from the naked eye, it looks like the driver should be okay, but it was ruled a preventable accident where the driver could have prevented it from happening. But like David mentioned, there's a few situations that occur out there that, in terms of being conscious inside the truck, a lot of it has to do with the mentality of the driver. And cell phones is always a very hot topic in this industry, as well as just in society. We've become so dependent on our phones and our ability to use it for phone calls and text messaging and emails, social media. We get a lot of our news updates. We get our sports updates. You know, we rely so much on our phone when historically, you know, years ago, you used to be the television at home. But now we have everything at the palm of our hands, and the temptation to utilize our phones while we're driving is probably one of the most difficult things to counteract. And in some instances, even use it for GPS location, finding a location where you're trying to go. But as you know, there's severe consequences for commercial drivers with cell phones in terms of just tickets. And then pretty much industry standard, you know, getting those types of tickets, you know, you'll limit your employment opportunities by having those on your record, regardless of the carrier that you're with. You know, so the importance of that, and then, you know, ultimately the bigger issue in terms of the safety standpoint, where so many people have died and or gotten seriously hurt from being on their phones or utilizing their phones. And usually in these investigations, that's one of the first things they look at was the driver on his phone? Was there any type of, you know, electronic communication going on, or use of electronic device? So just always keep that in mind. I know it can get to the point where you're beating a dead horse regarding it, but I think it's just like the seatbelt. You know, it's something that everyone knows to use, and, you know, we're thankful for it when it actually saves someone's life. But then there's those situations when people don't wear it, something happens, and all you hear is the driver or the occupant getting thrown out the truck or flung out the truck from an accident situation. And the first thing that kind of comes to your mind is the ability to be able to. You could have done something very simple of just putting that seatbelt on, or something like just not answering that phone call, or just waiting or pulling over to be able to utilize those types of devices. And then the other half.
Aaron, can I say?
Yeah.
Aaron, can I say something real quick?
Yes.
Yeah. Some of the statistics that have been coming out is, and talking on the telephone, not just answering it, but talking on the telephone is equivalent to taking a drink of alcohol in terms of suppressing your ability to respond and pay attention to what's going on. It's that severe. If you're driving down the road and you think you're going to take a drink of alcohol, talking on the phone is equivalent to that. You cannot do two things at once. What happens is you wind up, your mind shifts from one thing to the other, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Okay? There is no such thing as multitasking. I know people say that all the time. You can multitask. You cannot multitask. You have one job, and that's one job to do, and that is to drive the truck. To answer the phone or to talk on the phone is very, very dangerous. It's just as dangerous as drinking. So if you think of it that way, then you'll know why it's important that you not be on the telephone when you're driving. Okay.
Aaron,
Yes.
question. Do I need to change the slides, or you're going to be changing them? Because I don't know how to do it.
I'm getting ready to change it. I'm getting ready to change it. So this, I'm going to show a very short video. I'm not going to show the whole thing. I'll show probably like a minute of it or so, just in regards to the next topic of aggressive driving, and just some things that in the industry that gets talked about, and just some best practices. Let's see if I can. There we go.
According to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, or CDC, every day in the United States, 9 people die and over 1,000 people are injured in accidents involving distracted drivers. While distracted driving is dangerous for any driver, the consequences for commercial motor vehicle drivers are amplified due to increased vehicle weights, load dynamics, and stopping distances compared to non-commercial trucks and cars. The causes of distracted driving include the use of electronic devices or other in-vehicle distractions, aggressive behavior toward others on the road, and impairment due to fatigue or intoxication. Distracted driving is dangerous and preventable behavior for commercial motor vehicle drivers. Commercial motor vehicle drivers and their employers must remain mindful of the greater risk they can pose to themselves, passengers, and other motorists or pedestrians. In the distracted driving for commercial motor vehicle training,
just like in this video, which we kind of just discussed, the CDC says that this is one of the leading causes of accidents and injuries in our industry. And one of the things that kind of stood out to me was not only was it the distracted driving portion of it, but the aggressive driving and the fatigue driving, which all kind of go hand in hand, or they lead into each other. From an aggressive driving standpoint, you know, a lot of it is you're challenged by your own emotions. You deal with the stress and the road rage of others, the stress of your own job and deadlines, and you have to be to the next station by 2-3 o'clock in the morning, or your load is due in a certain time, and you know you might not be able to get there unless you're forced to drive faster or cut corners. And so my encouragement to everyone would be never put those stress ahead of your own safety. You know, especially when it's bad weather, especially when it's traffic or situations that occur that are out of your control. By cutting corners will not help the situation in the long term. And in the long run, you know, the people around us, whether it's those on the road or whether it's our families, are the ones that typically get affected by these kind of actions that we take. Some of the characteristics of aggressive driving, placing top priority on speed, competing out there, whether it's with other truckers or with other, cars, trying to prove a point that I'm driving a bigger vehicle and I can box you in a situation where a car is trying to challenge you. And then just other characteristics of aggressive driving in terms of just your behavior is like tailgating, hostile obscene gestures, yelling, or cutting in front of others. And have you guys seen that out there on the road where other drivers will either try to do this to you, or you'll see other drivers doing that to each other?
Yeah.
Louder. They say yes.
Okay. Yeah. So it's you see it every single day, and the hope for all of us here is that the drivers here are never involved in those types of situations. Because for all intents and purposes, these are the types of situations that we can actually avoid, that we have control over. Is the way we view these situations and not being involved and subjecting ourselves to being aggressive on the road. In terms of aggressive driving, just in terms of a legal definition, can somebody mute their line? In terms of the legal definition,
I'm listening to a seminar at the same time. Give me a bacon, egg, and cheese.
Hello?
Biscuit.
I'll take it on myself.
Just a thing.
Can you mute your line, please?
You have a 2 for 4 if you're ready. Just 2 for 4? Or just 1?
Hello?
How much are they?
By itself?
Okay. Hopefully you guys can still hear me.
Because by itself would be $3.30.
Give me 2.
But in terms of the definition of aggressive driving,
It's going to be $4.30.
the operation of a motor vehicle in a manner that endangers or is likely to endanger persons or property. Which is a very vague definition, but it also covers a lot of things that could occur out there on the road, and you see it every single day.
We cannot hear you because somebody's making an order or something.
Yeah, let me see.
Bacon, egg, and cheese.
Hey, hello, can you guys mute your line? Dave, I'm not sure if that's you or not.
It's not me.
She was all like,
Yeah, I think that now it's better.
Okay. All right. So in terms of one of the reasons why I wanted to kind of discuss the legal definition of it in terms of aggressive driving, because it covers a general, from a general standpoint, it's just the operation of a motor vehicle in a manner that endangers or likely to endanger persons or property. And the first thing that kind of comes to mind is if in the event of a bad accident, this will be the definition that we would use to apply to, was the driver being aggressive while he was driving, or was he not? And a lot of it goes back to the actions that the driver was taking prior to the accident, or even just road rage, an assault with a motor vehicle or other dangerous weapon by the operator or the passenger of another motor vehicle, or an assault precipitated by an incident that occurred on a roadway. Just being able to realize that the vehicles and the weight that the equipment that you're driving can be used in a dangerous manner. And that's why, you have a Class A license and you went through training and you went through school to be able to handle these types of situations. So just be mindful that being aggressive and road rage is something that is just as illegal. It's something you shouldn't do as, not wearing your seatbelt or not doing your pre-trip, because a lot of it is what the outcome can occur if, these situations arise. Might be my slide.
You have questions in that slide? No questions.
Okay. And then just lastly, and I think sometimes we can kind of take this for granted, and sometimes you don't even realize you're stressing or you're stressed out. I think we use the word stress very loosely in our society. And I think a lot of us are programmed to carry on a lot of stress and just deal with it. But sometimes it's good to just kind of clear your mind. And that's why breaks are important, taking your 30-minute rest break period, being able to clear your mind and refocus and remember why you're doing what you're doing. And because there's a lot of factors that go into, your job that's very dangerous. It's not, you're not flipping hamburgers, which is a dangerous job as well, but the ability to realize that you affect so many different lives and you're on the road with so many different people that one bad decision could affect the rest of your life and the rest of the life of others. So trying to manage that stress on the weekends, on your 34-hour reset, all these different things, your nightly breaks, really take advantage of those breaks and understand that bringing that stress level down and being able to fully focus on next time you'll be driving is so important, and getting the proper rest as well. One of the other lead causes of incidents and accidents in this industry is fatigue driving. It comes up a lot. And getting adequate sleep, proper nutrition, regular exercise, is very important. Sometimes those things go untalked about. We talk about breaks a lot, but in terms of just adequate sleep and nutrition and exercise, it's so important to your ability to do the job on a high level every single day. So that's the end of that. Is there any other questions or
Nope.
else for the group?
No, we don't. I think that with that, we covered most of the agenda because we had the careless driving and the speeding and adjusting to conditions. We talk about the cell phone.
Yep, absolutely.
And then that will summarize, as you said, the why and the value of the license, that they are not just only in one place. An example you did with flipping hamburgers, it's that whatever they do will have consequences out there for them, their family, and other people.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Any questions?
I'm just listening now. I've done what I needed to do. But sometimes there are questions.
Well,
so
thank
I
you. Look forward to the next meeting. Like I said, maybe next meeting we'll show some video footage of drivers and incidents, and we can discuss those as a group to kind of get some group interaction. I think that would be good as well. And just see some real life scenarios.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay. Well, everybody have a good day. Have a good week. Keep safety in the forefront. We appreciate you.
That's cool. Just walk back and through a parking lot.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
All right. Thank you.
See you next time.
All right. Bye-bye.
Okay.